Hi everyone, and welcome to our Rare Disease Q&A special here at the PBC Foundation. So I'm Christie, I'm Head of Patient Services at the Foundation, and we've also got Cheryl and Ange on the call with us today. Cheryl, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello everybody, I'm Cheryl Alomai, Patient Services Manager here at the Foundation, and I look after the volunteer network, and I deliver and host our self-care sessions every Tuesday, Choose Me Tuesday, and I look forward to meeting you if I haven't already.
Thanks, Cheryl. Ange, do you want to tell us a wee bit about yourself?
Yes, hello everybody, I'm Ange Cameron. I'm a mindful compassion coach, facilitator and psychotherapist, and thank you so much for inviting me on an extra day in our life, which is the 29th of February. Imagine that, once every 4 years. And secondly, especially on the Rare Disease Day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So as we've mentioned, our special today is for Rare Disease Day, and the campaign this year is Light Up for Rare. So you'll have seen on our Facebook and on our socials, we've been having some Light Up for Rare pictures, and we're all supporting a bit of Light Up today. I've got my little disco ball here as well, so we've all got some Light Up happening here today. So what we thought we'd do today is put a wee bit of a twist on the Light Up for Rare campaign and have a chat about self-care, about Glimmers, how we can lighten our load when we're managing a chronic illness such as PBC. So please let us know if you have any comments or any questions, and I'll keep an eye here in the room and also on Facebook as well. But just remember, Facebook's a public forum, so just if we're posting anything on there, just remember that it's not private. So I'm just going to start off with the first question. So why is self-care so important when you're managing a chronic illness like PBC? Ange, do you want to step in first?
Who did you ask there? Sorry.
Ange, asked you, Ange, if you're okay. Do you want to go in?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously having a chronic illness with the fatigue, the tiredness, then you've got all these, maybe skin conditions and this constant challenges with it being an autoimmune disease, is that you're constantly being demanded on and drained physically, emotionally, psychologically, but in more ways than a typical person in the world. And that's asking much more. An atypical person in the world without an autoimmune disease already has demands and challenges. But with yourself, it's very easy that your whole system, not just psychologically, but physiologically, can constantly be in a survival mode, that fight, flight, freeze and fawn place. And self-care, really, when we talk about self-care, yes, we're talking about the early nights and the routine, and I know that we touched on it this week. Mo, that you'll probably come to that because I know it's one of your favourites. But it's that constant, if we're always giving out, and if you think about it like your phone, you've got your phone on, you've got all these tabs open, even unconsciously, you're still trying to, everything's going on inside. That self-care really has to build up that battery in the phone all the time. You have to be plugged in all the time, where other people might not be plugged in all the same. If you're constantly fighting against something internally and externally, it's going to deplete and deplete and deplete you and take you off. And you have to make a very active, conscious choice about continuing. We talk about this, fill your bucket, but to keep your battery charged at all times. And I'm not saying by any means that is easy. I absolutely know that, but hopefully we'll explore some of that and some strategies, some techniques in today's session.
Yeah, it can sometimes be really difficult to prioritise that, can't it? There's so much that we've got going on in everyday life. Sometimes prioritising that can be difficult. Do you want to share some of I'll open it up to Cheryl as well. Do you want to share some of the tips and techniques that would help?
Cheryl, would you go? And
then I just following on from what you said there, and I think that's where the focus of the Choose Me Tuesday sessions is. It's really on that self-care and on remembering that you're important. Remembering that looking after yourself, taking time for you is important, and that self-care isn't selfish. And having delivered a lot of these sessions face to face and online, I do hear that often, that it feels, oh, I'm being selfish. There's other things I need to be doing for others. And in fact, that reminder of self-care, the importance of self-preservation, self-love, and just remembering that you are important. And I loved it that you mentioned there, Ange, about the active part of that. It's active self-care. It's the doing of it. It's the making it happen, and it's the doing of it today. So hopefully today's session will be that reminder for people. And certainly that's what, the sessions that happen on a Tuesday at the new time of 6 p.m, a little plug, are all about.
It's dedicating that time to ourselves, isn't it? It's making that time.
Yeah.
And I think and I know we'll touch a wee bit more on routine, as you've mentioned, Ange, but it's getting that, it's building that in as part of your routine is how you make it work. Yeah.
One of the ways to make it work, Mo, is actually to put those sessions at 6 o'clock in your diary, to make them non-negotiable, because the stories that we tell ourselves often convince us, and especially if we've got a strong inner critic, saying that there's always other people and there's always tasks to do and there's always the dishwasher to empty and I'm too tired, even if it's putting it on the background somewhere, in a way that maybe even you're lying down or something like that. One of the things when I came into being a mindful compassion coach many years ago, one of my tutors said to me, fake it till you make it. And it always felt uncomfortable, that statement, with me. But what she meant was just show up even when you don't want to, because one day something will happen, you will turn a corner. And I know you and I spoke about this week, Mo, about you said yourself you were late to the party of self-care. And it's in our society, no one often, so it's not surprising that people think it's selfish. And if you look up at the word in the dictionary, selfish to self-care, they're actually very opposite, and very opposite definitions, because self-care, true self-care, we have two hands and a huge heart, is A, for yourself, but ultimately other people benefit too. I'm much more patient with my kids. I'm less likely to be frustrated. I'm able to give more to other people. I'm able to be kinder to myself. And therefore, I'm able to be kinder to the people around me, even if it's a smile to one of my neighbours. And all that has a ripple effect. One of the things that you said to me was, well, what is one of the kind of tools there? And when I talk about tools, for me, it's not about being woolly and tree huggy and unfounded tools. It's neuroscience research, it's psychology research, that they've done so many studies, even around Glimmers. And many neuroscientists throughout the world, and quite a few of my coaches and mentors too. And Glimmers, if people haven't heard of them, the idea is they're opposite to triggers. Now, the trigger...
I love that term. Yeah, I only heard that recently. I love it. It was from you that I heard it, Ange. I've only heard it recently, but I love it.
And what's great, what's amazing, that it's really woke neuroscientists, particularly in the US, up to, this experience of joy, of happiness, of gratitude. I'll come to that later, of Glimmers. So Glimmers is the antidote almost to actually triggers. So a trigger for someone with PBC or, many autoimmune diseases could be that trigger of maybe, your skin is feeling bad, it's feeling itchy, the acne, maybe even you've got the challenges particularly around your lower immune. You're having to watch somebody around you that's maybe got potentially COVID or the cold or the flu. Maybe you're feeling tired or just constantly exhausted, or maybe there's the bigger triggers like a hospital appointment coming up and it's causing a lot of stress, it's a lot of anxiety. So these triggers for me, being a visual person, are right along a spectrum here. They go from the little everyday triggers that we have to the bigger triggers. And with the more challenges, having an autoimmune illness and a chronic illness, that constant state of us being stressed, anxious, in that survival, fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, will be even on the background, even when we're in an okay place. So the trigger here, noticing these when they come up, is first of all our first point of contact to bring it into awareness. Now, habits are always difficult to come into our life. And I always suggest to people, put on, to remind yourself and say, well, what is my trigger? Just put a wee bell in your diary 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. Just check in and say, right, what's my trigger right now? Then bring in the antidote of a glimmer. Okay. Now, for instance, I was walking to school with my kids yesterday morning, and I knew that my daughter had a hospital appointment. I know that that is a trigger for me. It's a trigger for her. And potentially that could cause me stress, anxiety. And then what happened in that moment as I'm walking through the park, I simply looked up at a tree and I noticed the leaves just moving in the wind in that coldness. And I thought, oh, that coldness just makes me feel alive. And I know that the leaves on the tree, everything is temporary. Now, everybody's glimmer is all different. And that doesn't mean I look up at the tree and look up at the leaves. But it might even be when I came on the screen to you guys, I know how fond I am of you both. I know how much I respect you both. So it made me smile inside. And I allowed myself to experience that. Just a little bit more on that is, if you have 10 things in your day and there's 9 things that go really well and good, the one thing, the brain automatically goes into that animal way, that survival fight place, and it ruminates on that one experience, just like you've had a bad day. You've had a good day, but one bad thing happens before the end of your day. What do? We start ruminating about it. Bring your focus. You have to actually actively bring your mind to that nice or good things that's happened in your day. Or maybe you've got a pain in your body. Maybe your body is not showing up how you want it to show up. Check in with your body. Is there any soft bits? What's working well for me today? Oh, my back's not as tight as yesterday. Rather than just focus on that one area, balance it out into that glimmer, whatever it might be. And if that feels too difficult, it might be a glimmer outside. It might be the light of the sun. It might be the face of a colleague or a friend. So that glimmer, when they did the research, the neuroscientists, what happens is, rather than follow along that neural pathway of negativity, and what can happen there, Cheryl and Mo, is it gets us into a spiral if we carry on with that. There's a real danger. We have to actively cut through that, cut through the neural pathway, the habits that we've created, and then allow ourselves to focus. Again, this is not an easy training for the brain, but you can get mindfulness bells that are free downloadable apps just for wee reminders, or get sticky notes. I am such a fan of sticky notes, everywhere. But if you've got a question about that, let me know, because I know
Yeah, please just pop it in the chat if you want to ask about that. I know that it can sometimes, we do tend to focus on the triggers throughout the day rather than the glimmers. And I think once you're aware of glimmers, I know for me, I've tried really hard to start looking for those and actually take a moment to enjoy them so that you feel the benefit of that. Any tips on how we get a bit better at that, focusing a bit more on the glimmer rather than the trigger?
I was going to ask Cheryl that, but I'd like to, if anybody's watching live, I'd like to see in the comments what their glimmer is just now, or they've experienced this week or today. Cheryl, what would you say? What's the kind of things that you do to build up habits?
So I think it does looking at it as a habit is really important, because it takes time, as you've said, to establish it. So it's the practice of the doing, it's the actively doing it, day and reminding yourself. So all those things that you've mentioned there, like reminders in your phones, things, post-it notes, whatever works for you, having those reminders. And for me, it's quite simple. It's making sure that I look at the sky. I look at the sky and I see what colour it is. But it's become a habit that I do it. And actually, if you think, that requires me to look up rather than down. And how often are we walking with our heads down? And so therefore we're not even noticing that glimmer that's there and around us, or looking out the window if you're not getting out and just being able to look and see. And the sky's not always blue, but it's always changing and it's always different. And I think there's something quite nice and quite hopeful about that in itself, of just how things can change, how things evolve, how things move on. And that's, for me, Glimmers. I love the idea of Glimmers. And just by looking at what you're wearing, even Ange, is a reminder, is a visual for all of us here watching today of, Ange, and the reminder of what she's wearing, the glimmer, of things. It's the nice things. For me, it links to gratitude very much. We might go on to talk more about that today. But it just, the good stuff. It's the nice things. And even in the Choose Me Tuesday sessions, we have a focus on that, something that's going well, where we're spotting the glimmers and sharing the glimmers. And often it's the case that people go to what's not going well. And actually the habit of then is sharing something that's going well together. So that's the idea of reminding each other, is really quite helpful too.
And that camaraderie. On the Tuesday groups as well. By the way, just disclosure, Cheryl hasn't paid me a £5 to plug her Tuesdays session, by the way. But you can post it. But in the post, I'll explain.
On its way.
No, but a couple of things that you mentioned. So first of all, when you do lift your head up, and especially if it's over waist level, the brain is less likely to ruminate and think negatively down here when you've got your head down. The second thing is, even on our not good days, no matter how the weather is, no matter if it's foggy, if it's rainy, if it's really windy, one of those storms that we have so frequently, the sun is always there. It never goes away. And I represent, and I talk about this in my mindful compassion practices. Our heart represents the sun with that warmth from it and the glow. We just have to consciously access it. I do know that reminder from moving from, especially if we've got so many triggers, we're in survival, we've got that anxiety, that negative, irrational, sometimes catastrophizing thinking going on, maybe even feeling low or down or alone or lonely, which is also very common, especially with a chronic illness like PBC. That is, all there. That moving from that to what we're inviting you to do, the three of us, is not an easy task. I wasn't born like this. I had to train my brain. And coming to something that Cheryl says, when we say it out loud, when we write it, it comes alive and we learn to train the brain. And although this brain in our adult self weighs about 3 pounds for the average adult, it's not a muscle, but we can train it like a muscle. And even if you've not got the motivation, sometimes you've just got to do it, because the brain only has like a certain, so for some of us, it's only got some days it's only got 17% of, I'll talk about motivation another day in the brain, but we've only actually got some days 17%. Some days you might not even feel you've got 2 or 3. Some days you might think, sod this for a laugh, I just want to be in my PJs and lie in my bed. Or other days you might feel much more that you've got motivation. So it's having those reminders on the phone that allows us there to actively put something into place. And when James Clear, I teach building habits, when James Clear talks about this, he atomic habits. So if you ever go into YouTube, look at Atomic Habits there, and he suggests do 3 or 4 things to remind yourself when you're building up habits. So say, for instance, if I am building up on a glimmer, which for me, sometimes when my body's feeling a bit better and I'm able to stretch it, that feels like that joyful moment. And I go, oh God, that's great. And that feels a glimmer to me. I have to put my yoga mat out at night. I have to put it in my diary, and I have to tell my colleagues I'm not available in that half hour. So I put 3 things out there to remind myself not to move the body, and we've spoke about that, to make myself emotionally and psychological feel better. And then also the benefit of that is 1 add 1 is 3, and that's the glimmer. I hope this is all making sense.
It certainly is.
Yeah,
I'm so
definitely.
passionate, so I could talk forever on it, but I'll just
No, it definitely is. And I think if we're just thinking about things that we can do to lighten our day, so we've touched on glimmers, and I know we want to have a wee chat about gratitude as well. So I'll open that up to you guys as well, just in terms of things we can do around gratitude.
I guess I'm curious. Hello, Celia. So Celia and she follows me on Facebook, and the person who sometimes has my dog, Luna Lovegood, a wee Jack Russell, a therapy dog, sometimes she knows the person who has Luna, and sometimes they've went out for a walk. So there you go. So even just now, if we collectively see what are we grateful for, if we said 2 things each, what are we grateful for right in this moment, and see what we notice in that expression of what Cheryl was talking about when we do that collectively in a community.
I think as well the gratitudes. I started doing a gratitude journal after I'd been speaking to Cheryl about it, and it's something that I try to build into my day, and I do it every morning. And sometimes the things I'm grateful for are big things, and sometimes they're very small things. And I think actually when you start to think of it as the smaller things in your life, then those are the things that are in your life continually. So I found it really good to do. Really good.
So in this moment, what's right here now live, and I'm inviting people who are watching too, without any intellect or anything's right or wrong, come down into your heart area and just think about just maybe 2 things right now that you're grateful for. And I wondered if I could ask you first, Mo.
I am grateful for you both in this moment, sitting here chatting with me, talking about this. And I'm also grateful for my little dog who is snoring at my feet. And I'm surprised, although she's tiny, I'm surprised you can't hear her because she's just about as loud as my husband. So those are the 2 things that I'm grateful for just now.
Nice.
So I noticed that did I come in too quickly, Ange? Were you going to say something there? Sorry.
No.
I've just felt the need to speak. I noticed, and I don't know if anybody who's watching maybe felt this as well, and it's okay if you did, but I immediately went into my head to think about this, what I'd be grateful for. And then when you gave us that reminder to come in, just be in your body, be present, connect with your heart, then I just noticed that I was really, really grateful for this moment, being here, doing what we're doing. And if I look just over this way to my left, I can actually see some blue sky out the window. And how nice that is. So
that's and just notice, and I'm going to come on to something else once I share what I'm grateful for, because it's just that's landing with me. Just notice, and I would encourage other people as well as Mo and Cheryl to notice how we feel when we hear somebody else's expression of gratitude. It's like a double light, Rare Disease Day, and it's all about the lightness. And so this is another light that we get, and that's what glimmers are, aren't they? So we also move into the gratitude. And I am grateful. I'm just grateful for being here. I love connection. I love authentic connection and heartfelt connection, and I can feel that in my heart right now. I'm also grateful that actually my feet are warm, because they've been cold for the last hour. And when my feet are cold, everything else is cold. And they're just really warm just now. I'm thinking, oh, that's because it gives me a soothing feeling. So I can feel that comfort. Yeah. And I actually wouldn't have noticed that had I not asked that question. Not to that level. So notice when other people, when you speak it out loud, so you could maybe be in the house on your own, or you could be with your wee dog or your cat or even your kids, even sitting around the table with your partner or your kids and say, it's Thursday night. Tell me 2 things you're grateful for just now. Or have a wee jar and you get a wee sticky note, and just once or twice a week you pop that in your jar. And when you're having a rubbish day, go into that. So we did that last year in my family. I'm a single parent with 2 teenagers, and when somebody was having a challenge or a difficult, we'd just pop that in and read it and go, oh, we are grateful for Luna licking us all over the face, or whatever that might be. So then you're getting almost, that kind of double happiness there, or joy. So when we talk about gratitude, it is slightly different from glimmer. And it's actually, so it doesn't matter whether they've done the neuroscience research in the US or Germany or China, but it's a neurological fact that the brain cannot be in a state of appreciation and a state of fear at the same time. It's impossible. Okay. Now, I think that is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know about you, but the whole fact that it's either one or the other. So when you're in fear, there's your antidote. And what I talk about is antidotes. I talk about this a lot because, if you've got a sore throat, you might think, oh, I might have a cup of tea or a glass of water or honey and lemon or whatever that might be, some medicine. Even when emotionally, psychologically, look for an antidote, look for the opposite of the soothing system, we call it in mindful compassion. So to think about that we cannot even be, and I've played with this, I have actually tried to force this to happen. I've been out with Luna. Honestly, I've been like, I'm testing this theory. And I've looked at Luna and think, oh, I just love her so much. I love her when she hops like a bunny rabbit. And then I'm thinking about something that makes me anxious. And I'm trying to think about the both of them. And it can't happen. I'm actually watching the struggle in my brain going, which one are you going to choose? Try it. Test it out. And so to think that they're so exclusive from each other is pretty amazing. So when you're in a low mood, when you're maybe even depression, maybe even feeling that isolation or that aloneness, that loneliness, to bring something else. And it doesn't have to be something big. Like you said, Mo, it could be a little thing. It could be like Cheryl says, she noticed the sunlight. She's grateful for that. So that's the glimmer bit. But something that you're really grateful for, one thing that I'm often grateful for, and it's without comparing it with anybody else, but I know with everything that's going on in the world and people suffer everything from chronic illnesses to the war to poverty. I think I wake up in the morning and just before, because automatically we usually just get up for a pee, I just lie there and I think, I've just got a roof over my head, haven't I? I've got a roof over my head and I've got a duvet on me. And I'm even in my flannelette sheets and I'm even grateful for them. And there's something really pretty awesome that when we wake up in the morning and when we go to bed at night, to really think about that. to really feel it, to take in that goodness into our bodies, into our heart. And then what we're doing is training the brain again, which is really, really awesome, you know. So gratitude, amazing that we can't experience those negative, irrational, catastrophizing thoughts at the same time. I'd just like to say one more thing, and Cheryl encouraged you, Mo, to write it down. So what you're doing there, again, it's almost like, you know, sometimes you go into the supermarket and it's like 2 for the price of 1, except they don't do that much now. It's usually buy 2, get the third free, or get the cheapest item free. That's what they do now. They try and Swiss us. They've moved out of that 2 for 1. But writing a gratitude down enhances the experience and makes that exercise, that practice, that building of the muscle in the brain much more likely to happen. So writing it down, Cheryl is quite right of encouraging you to do that. And some days we'll go, I don't see the point of this, I can't be bothered, something else, oh, the dishwasher needs emptied, God, I'm trying to get out from my bed. That's where I am just now. Just lie there. What's the 2 or 3 things you have real gratitude for just now? And if you can, treat yourself just to a wee A5 journal and write it down, or get somebody it for their birthday. Lovely present.
It's the prompt to remind you, isn't it? So that you get into the habit, and then you remember. Because that's how it worked for me. Is that once I started to do it, then it was becoming a habit because I was remembering to do it every day.
Yes, you're right, and that's why I started it when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed. That's why, and then during the day it just automatically pops into my head, because it never used to be a practice for me either. But and then it's amazing some of the things that come up. I think, oh, I'm even grateful for my neighbour, like giving me a smile or saying, here's my Amazon parcel. It's just a surprise, you know.
Just something we touched on there, actually, if we wanted to move on. Routine, talking about routine to build habits. I know I've had PBC since 2007, and something that's really helped me to manage that has been routine. And I know when I'm out of my routine, I don't feel as well, and just the importance of staying in routine. Have you got any help or tips that you could give us for that?
I'm really passionate about routine as well, Mo. I'm very firm of being in my bed at 9:30. You will not experience, I am not in my bed by 9:45. I'm in my bed usually between 9:15 and 9:45, and that, it has to be something really, an emergency or something urgent, that's not, even if the dishwasher's not been emptied, I'm in my bed with that. It is one of the best things that we can have for our security, for our safety, physiologically, for anybody, particularly people who have health conditions and challenges, to really start doing that routine. Now, for some people, that might sound a bit boring or even difficult or even challenging, but it gives the system, the parasympathetic system, a security, a base, knowing. And when we talk about routine, it's about routine, about sleep, but also actually about eating. I used to be somebody who think, I can't be bothered eating this morning, or I'll maybe just have my oats, my overnight oats or porridge at 9:30, 10 when I felt it. Even having my food somewhere between 8 and 9 in the morning, lunch between about 12:30, 1:30, all of that is really important for our system to give us that energy, to give us that focus. I wanted to say something else there, but I was curious how both of you benefit from routine.
It's so good to know it about yourself. It's a bit of it self-awareness, isn't it, of what works for you, and that it's okay to be saying enough for today, kind of thing, giving yourself permission to go and rest and just say that's, that works for me. I think there's lots of thoughts coming to mind, and I'm sure it is for lots of people watching, and it is. Remember, you can go back. We will be putting this up more that people can revisit.
I'll pop it up on PBC TV on YouTube,
Yeah, because I think for me, it's like I want to be journaling things. There's just a flash of something when I'm just speaking, we are both saying things. But routine for me is, I notice it when I'm out of it more than I notice that I'm in a routine, if you know what I mean.
That's exactly the same for me, Cheryl. I think I notice it more when I'm out of it. When you're in it, you're just kind of running with it and you're feeling well on it. But it's when you're out of it, you really notice it, don't you?
Yeah.
I was wondering before I come to say something, for yourself, Mo, having PBC, of what the impact for you is of actually being out of routine.
It makes me feel really out of sorts. It can make me feel a bit down at times as well. So if I'm not looking after my sleep hygiene, I feel that I'm at my best when I'm in my routine and I'm getting up at a regular time in the morning and I'm in my bed at a reasonable time of night. So it's the routine of the day as well in terms of work. I've been lucky in that I've managed to work pretty much full time throughout my condition, but that does take a bit of managing as well, so that you've got the energy and to do that. So I think it's important. Your work-life balance is really important as well. So making sure that there's boundaries set in that, and making sure that if there's time needed for catch up, that you take that, and just becoming more aware of when that's needed, and giving yourself time and space to do that. But definitely what Cheryl said there really resonated. It's when I'm out of it that I notice it, whereas when I'm in it, it's definitely that I thrive more if I'm focusing on that and sticking to it.
I think you're right about that, thriving as well. And even if somebody isn't working, it's very easy to let the day just happen. And I would encourage people, even if you're not working or you're working part-time, on the days, is actually just set a time and say, right, I'm going to get out between like 10:30 and 11 o'clock. So I know that I have to go for a shower, even if I'm just doing daily shops. If the daily shop is going to make you do it and you're nipping along to Scotmid, then that's still getting you out. It's adding to that sleep hygiene where we need natural light to go at the back of the retina for the brain to give us the good melatonin for that deep sleep. So that routine is really important, even when we're not working, of turning around rather than being inside all the time. Just to say, right, okay, I'm going to have my lunch about 1 o'clock. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my dinner about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and so on, and these kind of things. And I'm definitely going to see a friend once or twice a week. And it's even that in a routine is so nurturing. And all these little things, they might not sound very much. It might take energy and tiredness, and I know all that. But what to do is these, it's that domino effect. It affects one domino, affects another domino, and it's like that flick. And if we keep doing them, it becomes a natural way, and our body will rise up to that thriving much, much more. Something that Cheryl said triggered something in me. It's, the body itself, we talk ourselves out of so many things, including self-care. And I know, Mo, you and I, when we had a quick chat this week, we're going to do a session on May the 16th at 2 o'clock. Pop that in your diary, everybody. I'm going to plug my one, since Cheryl got to plug hers. May the 16th, 2 o'clock, and we're going to look at resistances, defences, and other things that stop us doing self-care, but much more. But one of the things that we often do is say, well, that won't really count. My body's, psychologically, emotionally, it won't matter if I don't do that glimmer or that gratitude or that routine. We're very, very good at talking ourselves out of things. But the physical body, when we start having a conversation with the physical body rather than just our mind all the time, just ask your physical body, even right now when you're watching this, how are you feeling? what is it you need? What is it you need from me in the next 30, 60 minutes? Now, I hadn't really thought about that. And as I said that out loud, my body says, well, you go and have that chicken salad in the next hour because it would be good for you to have some protein. And I think, so where my head would go, I'll come off this call and I know that I've got to get back to my colleague about this by about 3:15. Do you see? Now that's my head. And I'm not any different from everybody else. The 8 billion people in the world, we're much more similar. And we're certainly interconnected than we like to think we are. But when we go to our body rather than ask our brain, what is it you need from me? Actually, I'd like to have an early night tonight, thanks, Ange. I'd like to have a soak in the bath. And all of that adds on to this self-care, which adds on to a way of living, the routine. It's all of these things together.
I think it's even simple things. So I've asked myself the same question, and I'm thinking I need to get up for a wee stretch because I've been sitting down for a long time. And and when you're sitting at home, often I'm on my own today at home, but you're sitting, you're working away, you're not thinking about that, you know. And I think it's just taking the time to think and then get up and getting a drink or taking a little bit of a walk just to get up and move from sitting in the same position all the time. And
I can see Cheryl, because I know she's going away thinking, and I'm going to ask her what was going on for her.
What was going on, Ange? What was going on? You know me so well.
Sorry, you won't know, but I've got one of. Can you see this little ball at my feet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I asked myself, my physical body, what is it you would like at this moment? I had this at my feet, and I thought, and my feet says, oh, I'd quite like a wee foot massage just now as well while you're sitting here. And I often have one of these at my desk or when I'm sitting, because it's good for a foot massage, but also it keeps me in this very moment, because I was flitting away for a wee minute thinking about my protein chicken salad. You see? So it's all these things. So Cheryl, sorry.
No. So again, people might be thinking this along the same lines. Did you go to your head? I went straight to my head. What does my body need? And then came into my body again. And I had to it was a few attempts. And I do practice mindfulness, but I had to do a few attempts at really connecting with what I need. And whilst you were talking, and I was just letting it settle. So I think it just takes a bit of time. You know, it won't immediately come to you necessarily. It might, but it might not. And it was getting outside, getting outdoors. You know, and that was me really tuning in. I felt like really tuned in there and listened, but I did notice I was up here at first, you know, of the to-do list and the, you know, that kind of thing.
So you're going to get outside,
yes.
Mo's going to stretch, and I'm going to have my chicken salad.
I was thinking about getting outside earlier as well, because I had to go and pull the curtain behind me just before we started the call because the sun was shining through. And I hate blocking the sun out, but it was needed for the call, and it made me think, although it's chilly, you know, it is nice if you can get outside even just for a little while. That's something that I try to do.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. One of the other things that was on my list to have a wee chat about as well, I know when managing a chronic illness, pacing is really important, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, and if you had any hints or tips to help with that as well.
What would you say first, Cheryl, and then I'll...
So I like, and we talk about this the Choose Me Tuesday, and it's this idea of little wins.
She's really plugging that Choose Me.
Jazz.
You better all jog up to that.
I want everybody there. Yes.
There's a wee kerching every time she mentions it. Where it's like bingo, Ange. We get a wee.
Oh, dear me. What was I saying? Oh yeah, sorry. Little wins is this idea of what when you just, again, it connects to everything we've spoke about, but this idea of just rather than going with your pace and what I haven't done, but what I have and what I can do and what feels manageable. but not just doing, but noticing what you're doing. And that's where I connect the little win idea, and if that makes sense.
That. Yeah, I like that.
So I've got quite a few things. I've got a wee bullet point list in my head now about that pacing. First of all, I think for me, it's when we carry on, and this, you know, we have a natural part in our brain to strive. And sometimes striving for our aspirations or our goals is helpful, it's useful, that enthusiasm, that desire to move and change. However, if we're in a striving way, that ultimately at any point that it's going to cause us anxiety or pressure or stress, it's going to do the very, very opposite. So when it comes to pacing, even sometimes, for me, it's all about wisdom rather than just the self-care and the compassion. It's about wisdom in a pacing way that I know. So a few things that I do to pace. One of the things that I'm really aware that sometimes I just want to crack on and get on because I'm enthusiastic, etc., etc. If I do that, like most people, and especially people that have health challenges, conditions, chronic illness, if you carry on like that, you are going to be longer term flat, down, ill. Yeah, it's going to impact your immune system. It's going to have such a big ripple effect. So we have to use our wisdom and look at that bigger picture when it comes to pacing for me. That even when you want to do this, or, oh no, but I've got the energy to do this, I would still say use your wisdom in order to make that time set. Now, I use I can't even remember what you call it. It's Apollo something. I can't remember. It's work for 25 minutes, rest for 25 minutes, work for 25 minutes, work for 25 minutes, rest for 5 minutes, work for 25 minutes, rest for 5 minutes, then work for 25 minutes, and then have a proper 15-20 minute break. Okay, this is a lot on the internet, and I actually set my phone 25 minutes. Now, even if I'm really engrossed in something at that 25 minutes, even if I'm in the middle of something, I still stop at that 25 minutes, and just to move my body. I might even just go through to the kitchen. I might make myself a cup of tea. I might even empty half of my dishwasher. I might just stand outside in my wee tiny garden and just stretch my body or do a mindful practice, but do something different from where you are just now. And then come back 25 minutes and putting this set on your phone. There's also an app called Forest, and it's free, and it can help you focus on certain things without being distracted or disturbed. And then altogether you've done that 3 times, and then saying, right, okay, I might need a snack just now, and I might need something to build my energy, because you've just given away all that time. I'm a big fan of pacing, and I also think even if it's pacing, if it's not at work, even on a walk, you might take something like a snack, a protein bar with you, some, water, a cup of tea. It might be just stop. Don't just keep moving thinking, oh, my body's fine, and etc. Just stop every 20-25 minutes and go, I'll just take my time here. Mm-hmm. And even with your housework, just because you think you might have the energy, I'll just change my bed and then I'll do this and I'll go and clean the bathroom. Just maybe do one thing. Put on some music, have a dance to Queen or whatever it is, then go and do something else. Pace is about wisdom.
I do that on a slightly bigger scale as well. So say I'm planning a holiday, if we're planning day trips or things to do, I'll always make sure that that's alternated between days for rest as well, so that you can enjoy where you are, but you're taking a bit of rest time in that as well. Because if you go at it completely full for the whole week, then you'll come home more tired out than you were when you went away. So I try and plan in to make sure I've got some rest days in amongst my sort of busier days as well, so that's planned in, so it's already there.
I think it's
that's great advice, and even doing that on the weekends and in the evenings, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of people I've spoken to amongst the community who've said, "Oh, I'm so exhausted, and I'm but still trying to do too much." So I think this message of what you've described there, Ange, of pacing and how you've described it, and actually the planning of it. And so the planning of the breaks, of the taking the time of listening to your body as well, you know,
starting to recognise when, before you go too far, isn't it? It's starting to recognise that.
So if you were somebody new to Ange and this idea of pacing, and you're loving what you're hearing, but how do you gradually begin to build that in?
Yeah, so I actually diarise that. I put that, and it might not be 25 minutes for some people. I'm talking about that when I'm in a workplace, or say for instance, I think, oh God, I've got to change my bed. And to be honest, there's going to be some tasks, cleaning the windows or whatever it is, that we don't like. Putting that in and saying, I'm going to treat myself to a cup of tea once I've done that task that I've been procrastinating on. For some people, it might only be 5 minutes. It might be 10 minutes. They work and then need a 5-minute break. So don't think about it as 25 minutes and then 5 minutes. Think about it, again, come back to you, our individual needs and our requirements. And again, it's about building that up. And even if you do that set, even if it's once, twice, maybe 3 times in a week, eventually it will come into that. We've got to think about it. We've got reminders. We've got the sticky notes to put it in the diary and so on. But then as you keep doing that, as psychology research says, you do it, it's like either between 21 days or 30 days repetitively every day, or it's like 170 times. It then moves into becoming an automatic habit. So to think about that as well. And I did check out with Mo, but I have got a free challenge and masterclass next week.
Woo!
And that's my plug. And it's
There we
called
go.
5 and 5 to help with overwhelm, to help with coping mechanisms, to help putting in place these habits, to complement the Tuesday group for Cheryl.
Those Choose Me Tuesday and your class was both on my list, and yous have both beat me to it, ladies. You've got me through. They were on my list to cover at the end, and yous have beat me to it. But Cheryl wins the bingo. She got Choose Me Tuesday in more times. Sorry, and sorry about that.
That's okay.
Actually, I know we're approaching the end of our time, and I'm really going to encourage the lady who's asked this question on Facebook to give us a call and chat it through with us on the helpline. But I would just like to ask the question and just see if there's any help or tips that we can give her just now. So what the post is, it says, I've had someone say I'm a hypochondriac because I go through flare-ups. I was recently put on strong antibiotics for a UTI and was really sick, then migraines after. She was feeling really alone with the disease. How does she handle it? And how do you get energy and get rid of anxiety and panic attacks? She's feeling a bit like a failure. It's just if there's any sort of real-time tips we can give just now, but I would absolutely encourage her to give us a call on the helpline so that we can talk that through in a bit more detail. Also, we will share the tools that you're using as well, Ange, that we were talking about, and our regular sessions that we do have with Cheryl as well, because I do think joining something like that could be really helpful as well. But any advice for her in the moment?
So I would, yes, I'm watching our time. And there's a few things. When we feel vulnerable, that sometimes it's so easy to take on people's opinions and views, and that as affect our esteem and confidence first of all. And the brain wants to anything. I had this analogy years ago, but if the brain will stick to that negative thing. So if you've just joined us, go back 50 minutes or so and we'll talk about that 1 and 9, okay? So the brain will stick like Velcro to something negative, something not nice that somebody else has said because it's a threat, okay? Good things slip off the brain like Teflon. So when people say not nice things to us, we tend to ignore the things, you're looking good today, or that hypochondriac or whatever. it's really important for us to take that, put it in a colander or a sieve and think, I don't need to take that on board. It doesn't belong to me now. I know that's easier said than done when we're not feeling as vulnerable or when our confidence and our esteem are a bit better. The second of all, anxiety, it's actually a specialist subject of mine. First of all, join my Thrive in 5. Mo will put the link here on Facebook. But also check out, and I wasn't going to mention this, but check me out direction on YouTube because I specialise in anxiety. That's what I did my postgrad on. You'll see talks on anxiety, but also meditations specifically on anxiety too. And you really need to talk about a few of the things that Cheryl has been advocating today. So the gratitude journal and Mo, the Tuesdays, the fill in my own bucket, the routine, the pacing, all of these are antidotes. This constant self-care when we're feeling under threat, the soothing system, rather than the threat system, will be the antidote to what you're talking about. So putting these things in practice 3-4 times a day, that's what I would really encourage. And also, I'm sorry that's your experience of just now.
Yeah, and please do reach out to us for a chat on the helpline about that. Just, I think, bringing together all the things we've been discussing there, Ange, is just so important. And I know it's working with Cheryl and I have started working with each other for over a year now, and it was Cheryl that sort of switched me more on to meditation as well, and something that I've introduced into my life. Self-care was something that I wasn't really doing as much of as I should have either, and once I knew more about it and learned more about it, it certainly really helped in managing my condition and life in general. You know, I find it really, really good. So just from me as a last point, just to say there are tools that we have. I'll share Ange's tools as well, but also the tools that we have here at the foundation. Please join us for Choose Me Tuesday, and just to know that the community is there for you and we're there for you on a weekly basis. If you're just needing a check-in or just to come in for a little chat and ask anything that you would like to do at that point. So thank you so much for being with us. And anything you would like to say before we get ready to finish up?
Well, you have to go to these Choose Me Tuesdays. I mean, it's quite a tongueful, but they're great. But you know, it's much more easy for us to feel alone and isolated when we have a chronic illness. We go into that aloneness, that darker place, that painful hurt place, and it's sore. The difficulty is when we go into that spiral, we get more anxious and more stressed, and then we go into a place that it's more difficult to come out. Please, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's difficult for you, reach out to PBC. They're there. They've got the lived experience. They've got the expert experience around all of this. Don't be alone. Reach out. There's other communities, other people in PBC that will just be able to connect and help you towards what is really important and well for you.
Thank you, Anne. Cheryl, anything before we go?
We are here for you as the message to everybody that comes across this video. We are at the foundation very much here for you, and it's wonderful to be part of an organisation where self-care is given such focus and attention. So we are able to bring Ange in and her expertise and all things to looking after yourself. It's just wonderful. And so take full advantage of that. You know, as a member of the foundation, please do, you know, reach out to us and we will be there for you. And that's to everybody.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something quickly. That was lovely, Cheryl. What's today's day? The rare disease, and it's, what did you say, Light Up?
Light Up for Rare is the campaign this year for Rare Disease Day.
So and on that note,
let the people at PBC, apart from Cheryl and our Choose Me Tuesdays, be your light when you're maybe not feeling that light within you. Let them be your light.
We're here. Yes, thank you, Ange. I just wanted to say, actually, thank you both very much for joining me today. But there is a comment that's just come in as we're getting ready to wrap up that says, having a down day right now, I needed this, thank you. And I think that just says it. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's joined us for the session today. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll see you again in May, Ange.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye.